This is humerus bone, this is long bone, this is the bone of the arm. Like any long bone, it has got three parts. It has got an upper end, it has got a lower end, and it has got a shaft in between. First of all, the upper end. Upper end has got a head. This is the head of the humerus that will articulate with the glenoid cavity of the scapula to form the glenohumeral joint. So the glenohumeral joint or the shoulder joint will be formed by the head of the humerus. This is 3/5 of the spherical and circumference of this head. The circumference of this head is known as the anatomical neck. Now we have got two elevations over the upper end. One smaller elevation on the front aspect of the upper end is known as the lesser tubercle. One larger elevation over the lateral aspect of the upper end is known as the greater tubercle. Between the lesser tubercle and the greater tubercle on the front there is a depression. This depression is known as the intertubercular groove. And this groove we can see has got two lips or two boundaries. One is the medial lip or the medial boundary, that is the downward extension of the lesser tubercle, and the lateral lip is the downward extension of the greater tubercle. So this is intertubercular groove, this is the lesser tubercle, this is the greater tubercle, and this is the medial lip of the groove, and this is the lateral lip of the groove. Now, the anatomical neck, I have already described that is the circumference of the head. We can say that the line that separates head from the upper end is known as the anatomical neck. Now, the surgical neck. Surgical neck is the demarcation between the upper end and the lower end. A line that separates the whole upper end of the humerus from its shaft is known as the surgical neck. Now the lower end of the humerus. For describing lower end of the humerus, we first divide into two equal parts. The medial half is known as the medial condyle and lateral half is known as the lateral condyle. This whole is the medial condyle and this whole is the lateral condyle. Now the parts of the medial and the lateral condyle. Medial condyle has got a smooth projection downward. This smooth downward projection is known as the trochlea. The trochlea articulates with the trochlear notch of the ulna to form the ulnohumeral articulation of the wrist joint. Wrist joint has got two articulations, ulna with humerus and radius with humerus. So we say that this ulnohumeral and radiohumeral articulations. So ulnohumeral articulation is formed between the trochlea of the humerus lower end and the trochlear notch of the ulna. Above the trochlea over the front we have got a depression. This depression is known as the coronary fossa. This coronary fossa will accommodate coronary process of the ulna during flexion. When we perform flexion, we want a space to accommodate this coronary process. This coronary process is accommodated into the coronary fossa during flexion. Medial condyle has got medially a sharp projection. This medial projection of the medial condyle is known as the medial epicondyle. Medial epicondyle can be traced upward into a sharp ridge. So this sharp ridge is known as the medial supracondylar ridge. Now the lateral condyle of the humerus. The lateral condyle of the humerus has got inferiorly a smooth articular process. This smooth articular process articulates with the head of the radius. The head of the radius articulates with the capitulum to form the radiohumeral articulation of the wrist joint. Above the capitulum, here we have got a depression. This depression is known as the radial fossa. This radial fossa will accommodate this head of the radius during flexion. So for flexion, during flexion we want a space to accommodate the head of the radius. So that space is the radial fossa. Now the posterior aspect of the humerus. This posterior aspect of the humerus lower end has got a larger depression. This single larger depression over the back is known as olecranon fossa. which will accommodate olecranon process of ulna during the extension. When we perform extension, we want space to accommodate the olecranon process of the ulna. So this olecranon process of the ulna will be adjusted inside the olecranon fossa. So this is about the lower end of the humerus. Now I will describe the shaft of the humerus. The shaft of the humerus is triangular in cut section. So it will have three borders and three surfaces. It has got an interior border, it has got a medial border, and it has got a lateral border. The surfaces are the medial surface between the medial and the anterior border medially. The lateral surface is present between the anterior and the lateral border laterally, or the back between lateral border and the medial border. We have got this posterior surface. So how to trace the borders? For tracing borders, I will mention the prominent landmarks. From the medial supracondylar ridge upward, we can easily trace this medial border of the humerus. So the medial border of the humerus is upward continuation of the medial supracondylar ridge. Likewise, lateral supracondylar ridge can be traced upward easily into the lateral border of the humerus. So the lateral border of the humerus is upward continuation of the lateral supracondylar ridge. For tracing anterior border of the humerus, we have to follow the lateral lip of the intertubercular groove. So the lateral lip of the intertubercular groove is traced downward as the anterior border of the humerus. Over the lateral surface of the humerus, we have got a roughened area. This larger roughened area over the lateral surface of the shaft of the humerus is known as the deltoid tuberosity. So this is the deltoid tuberosity. Over the back of the deltoid tuberosity, here we can trace a twist inside the bone. This twist inside the bone will give a spiral shape impression, a spiral shape passage. This spiral shape passage behind the deltoid tuberosity, we can see here there is a smooth passage as shape. This is the spiral groove or the radial groove of the humerus bone. So this is all about the humerus bone.